Welcome to our Congress, Be Yourself. Today we have the pleasure to be guest of Bjoern Moschinski. Thank you very much. With pleasure. Bjoern Moschinski is expert for health, healthy nutrition, sustainable nutrition, is cook and is author of various cookbooks. Exactly. The first question I ask every of my interview partners is, what do you understand under consciousness, be yourself? Consciousness for me means to make oneself aware of how one lives, where we live, and with whom we live. This is very important. Today is becoming more and more important, not just to walk amongst the world with a stubborn mind, but to pay attention to what's going on right and left of us. The world is becoming more and more anonymous. We almost don't know our neighbors anymore. And exactly for this reason, it is so important to pay attention to our environment with a consciousness that is open. For me, it doesn't end with the human beings. It starts with the human beings and goes beyond that. So you seduce the human being's palate. You're not primarily cook, but are a seducer. You have a warm heart. You love flavor. And you don't eat meat. You're a vegan since the age of 16. You realize that you couldn't continue like this and that you have to continue doing something differently and make a few steps. I need to think of what I'd like to cook. And I don't want to pass on good taste. The subject of consciousness with taste helps in a wide range of conversations I have with my patients. Because when one talks with the people, one can say it in an ethnic, moral way and the people understand it. And the people think, yeah, true. I can bring up the subject of sustainability. Yeah, true, exactly. For me, that was the concept. If it already happens over one's taste, then all one has to do is to present something tasteful to the people. Of course, pure herbally. Vegan smells good. You don't have to restrict yourself. That's the problem, that very often one has this restriction in mind. When one becomes aware of what the vegan cuisine all has to offer, then it's not about restriction, it's about diversity. Because starting this moment, one starts to think. One realizes what else there is besides milk, cheese, meat, etc. And all the classical fruits and vegetables. I also started dispensing with meat like you did. And that was at a time when vegetables were still a side dish. It still is today. In the meantime, there's a much higher consciousness that there's a much bigger understanding that there's more than just meat. You'll also say that meat is not the only holder of taste. My standard question is, one of my standard questions is, what kind of taste does meat have for you? Usually the answer is steak, hamburger. In the end effect, all processed products. When one asks the counter question, what kind of taste does carrot have for you? One pulls the carrot out of the earth and there we have the carrot taste. I don't peel it, I don't cook it. I have the carrot taste. If we adapt this to the taste of meat, then one would have to kill an animal, take all the bits apart, and to eat it. Most of the time the answer is, that doesn't taste good. This means that the main taste of meat isn't actually this one. That the meat isn't the main reason for the taste, but the sophistication process of the meat to make it tasty for somebody. That's also the big problem, that one doesn't want to eat chewy meat. We have to cook it, we have to fry it, we have to spice it, pepper, salt, paprika, you name it, to make it eatable for one, to make it attractive. And I observed that with vegan products that this isn't even necessary, that one doesn't have to fry it. And here at the moment we have asparagus, strawberries, and it's a really good salad, and you've just to put a little bit of vinegar and salt, and then you have a marvelous meal. And this you don't have with raw animal resources. And that's the point. When you started paying more attention to the diet, this led you to a different point, which led you to think, hey, who am I? What do I want? What am I doing here? Did you come nearer to this through cooking? That's an interesting question. I've never thought about it. I never really think about what my goals are. I'm a person that lives from today to tomorrow. I tell myself, hey, you don't know what happens tomorrow. Tomorrow I can get into a car accident. Great, so you plan 10 years. You're economical. You restrict yourself, you do that and this. What do you profit from all of this? What I'm doing for myself is doing the things that make sense for me. And especially this subject, vegan, cooking, is something so meaningful, because it used to be a hobby and became a passion of mine. And not just for myself I gained advantages, but also influenced my environment positively. And I didn't do this by means of facts or showing horrible pictures, but by means of talking about this subject. I bring the taste to the mouth. And the people think, oh, I didn't even expect that. And that's a nice part of it. Did this promote your creativity? I can't even say it that way because I don't have a direct comparison. I don't know exactly how it was. What I know is that it was quite difficult. Difficult in the sense that one wasn't able to orientate oneself in respect to another person. As a vegan person 22 years ago, there weren't any vegan cookbooks. There was nothing. One just started cooking something that one desired. What is there? You really have to dedicate yourself to this. How does the classical cuisine do it, and how could we adapt this to the vegan cuisine? That also became my way of cooking. I see what the classical cuisine has to offer, and then I try to interpret it and to create in this moment two things. On one side, to bring the taste that I always have loved, and on the other hand, also try to pick up the people who eat meat, who eat cheese, who drink milk, etc. Exactly in that moment where that person is. When I achieve something, I just can't go to them and say, eat a lot of vegetables and don't eat that or that. I have to say and point out, hey, you love goulash, so let me make a vegan goulash for you. You won't perceive any difference. And only in the moment where he starts saying, oh, the aha effect is here. One starts to evaluate the subject vegan in a positive manner. And that is my work. To show the way, step by step. And to bring the people to a positive side, step by step. So that they can do something positively for their body. To do something positive for the mind, but also for the environment. Also the people in the environment. I very often observe is that when the mother starts cooking vegan, that also the husband starts to cook vegan. And the children anyways, because they are much more open. And in this way, one has a positive impact on the environment. For me, it's very positive. There are lots of people that think, oh, what do I profit from this? Oh, what does it help? I can't change anything. But exactly here it starts. The little actions in one's everyday life. A very simple fact. We eat in Germany on average 60 kilograms of meat per year. These are approximately 10% are vegan people. This means that the meat consumption per head is a bit higher. When one thinks about the fact that per kilo beef meat, 15,000 liters of water are used for the production and 13 kilograms of food, then one can think about all the resources that one saves. How much rainforest we can save, how many animals one can save. And that's the thing. Every consumer decides whether that be which supermarket one goes to, or whether one buys the cheapest milk, and start to get angry about the fact that, oh, the animals are not doing at all well. But hey, sorry, if one can buy for 35 cents a bottle of milk, it is logical that the animals aren't doing well. But the thing is that the first step has to be done. The conscious consumption. To make thoughts about, what do I actually eat? What do I consume? What happens to me? What happens to the others? And that's what happens in the vegan scene, that a beautiful drive develops. The people actually think about what they're eating. For example, that one tries to consume a lot of organic foods and try to avoid consuming highly industrialized products. And it's just great to see how this scene has developed itself so positively. Do you also perceive a difference in the intake of sugar? What I find to be very interesting, I myself can't really remember anymore. Many people who lead a vegan diet, they don't even have this urge to eat sugar anymore. A long time ago, I read a theory that made a lot of sense to me. What is sweet in the free nature? Why are fruits sweet? When the body has a lack of sugar, then it signals us that we have a lack of vitamins. We need a bit more vitamins, we need a bit more power. One would look where to find apples, pears, to be able to get our ration of vitamins. What do we globalized people do here? We eat sugar, which doesn't have any nutritions. And by means of this, we are deciding our own body. When you're vegan, you also eat more sweet products. You eat more fruits and vegetables, which contains sugar. And so we are actually eating natural sugar. And we don't have this hype because we also already regulate the sugar household. That's why I often hear from people that have a vegan diet that they say, they don't need any chocolate anymore. They don't have this drive anymore to eat sugar. In the earlier days, I always used to have these sugar attacks. Through this diet, the body adapted itself again, got balanced out. For 4 years, I've been eating fruit, all different kinds of fruits for breakfast. And this holds up to lunch. It's not like when one eats fruits that one thinks, it won't hold up to lunchtime. It's very nourishing. It nourishes a lot, exactly. What people tend to forget. The body has to adapt. The body has to adapt because at the beginning it's always very difficult. Changing one's diet means a big adjustment. But once the body has adjusted to it, then it goes perfectly well. Many people go on vacation for 3 weeks. The first week is a catastrophe concerning food. One cooks differently, different oils are used, different products, etc. First one thinks, oh, what's going on? In the second week, everything rolls fine. The body adjusted to this. It knows how to process these goods. And like this, there aren't any problems anymore. And it's the same with the vegan cuisine. At the beginning, one has the feeling, oh, what's going on? One doesn't have a filling sensation. The body has to get used to it. The body has to readjust. But that's a phase. I would say a few months until this well-being comes. It's interesting to observe that, for example, I haven't eaten, for example, 4 months long meat, and then to eat after all this time a piece of meat again. I couldn't digest it for 2-3 days. I had the biggest problems. It opened up my eyes. The body really needs a lot of energy to process meat. I was totally stressed. That was really the decision, oh, I really don't need this. I don't have any deficiency syndromes. And for the last 20 years, I haven't fallen down. I find it to be very interesting how one doesn't perceive such deficiency syndromes. I would like to do a test. Let's take 100 vegan people and 100 completely random meat eaters who have never really thought about health problems and never did a blood test. And it will be quite alarming to observe that the meat eaters will have more deficiency syndromes, but don't even know about it. But from the media, from the industry, it is propagandized. All these beautiful farm scenes where one sees the animals all colorful and all with these vitamins that they eat. And we live with this image in our head. And actually these images are deceiving. And it's obvious that at one point it will just make bam and it's going to be too late. And by these means you are making a favor to the industry lobbies. And the vegan people, they deal with this subject on a much regular basis. When I go to the doctor and I asked him to measure my B12 level, and then the doctor says, oh, okay, let's measure your B12 level. And I say no. And the doctor says, why not? Because often it is like that when one measures the B12 level, then one measures the inactive and active one at the same time. And you don't see what you have of B12, so you only see the general level. That's a nice thing about being vegan, that one has more experience in this respect. In this moment, one can also deal with the problematic in a better way. I have the feeling that vegan people are much fitter. Vegan people are better informed what concerns products, and that's why they're also more healthy. And that's why I consider it as a very important point, because this vegan diet gives one an important foundation. Because the people in the past few decades have been nourishing themselves in a very negative way. Too much sugar, too much processed sugar. There's not anything included in there anymore. Nothing. When one eats this every day, also animal fat, and this in very high quantities. How about you ask a meat eater, what was the last thing he ate that was with fiber, that was herbal, without cheese, without cream, without eggs? The person would say, I can't even tell. The overconsumption of these things are just so dominant. And with time, the people are just going to get sick. And they won't feel good anymore. And that's the really bad part about it. Life is finite. Especially in the older age, one perceives that the one or other thing is hurting more. That one doesn't have the same performance. Especially then, starting at the age of 55. One perceives a high increase in vegetarians and vegan people. First of all, the intellect is present, the consciousness with which the people notice, oh my God, nutrition, what I actually consume, what I eat has an elementary influence on my well-being and my health. I don't want to hurt myself. I want to be healthy, I want to be fit, I want to be able to enjoy it. And it is often the case that in this age that one has the interest. What can I do? I always say, consequently, put aside milk products, cheese, all that stuff, and you will see that, wow, the body will regulate itself. And that is very interesting. What have you eaten in the past few weeks? Did it come directly from the earth? Did it take away the tensions? That's also already a subject. That's the problem. In these cases, I usually choose organic products. But sometimes I'm really shocked to see from where those organic products are from. And what I also find to be shocking, but which is also understandable out of the economical perspective, that one expects from the organic sector is that the tomatoes should be red or redder, or the zucchinis greener. That one expects that all the products have so much sun. And that's why one plants all these vegetables in faraway countries where these conditions are possible. I grew up in the East. We had a garden. I know how it is. We just had tomatoes to tomato time. And sometimes we also made conserved tomatoes. And who wants conserved tomatoes? Sometimes we use them in a soup. That's why I know the time. I really miss this taste. I really miss this taste. In this case, I usually go to the farmer and pay a little bit more, or sometimes it's even less. I know who grew them. I know the earth. I go there and smell them. And I think, oh wow, I really feel like biting into one of them. But this has nothing to do with the vegan lifestyle. It sounds hard to say, but we have to differentiate it. I often hear people say, oh, you're vegan, and that person eats convenience products. Where's the problem here? It's not healthy. It's highly processed. But where's the problem? What does this have to do with the vegan person? Vegan means to pass on animal products. Whether the animal products are healthy or not, whether they are natural or chemical, doesn't stand anywhere. The most important is that they don't come from the animal. What stands in connection with this, whether it be sustainable product, whether one looks out for organic products, whether one is a farmer, that's a personal opinion. When I say I'm vegan, then I also make myself conscious what that also means. I find this to be a process. We have a lot of vegan people that are young, students, sometimes even children. In the sense of, oh, I read an article, or my idol became vegan. I also want to do it. When one decides to be vegan, then one also thinks about the moral, ethical aspects that are included in this lifestyle. One determines one's own lifestyle here. And it's normal that at this age one rarely deals with health issues. About sustainability, is that positive or negative? The most important is that it tastes good. And then one starts to study, and one is tight with money. In the cafeteria, most important, vegan, whether it's good or not, but I eat it because I don't have any other possibility. But as soon as the students move out of home and are in a work relation or in a manager relation, then it happens. Here I can move something, I can influence something. Like this, they have an option to go a step further. What do I want more? What is important for me? Do I want to deal with the subject of sustainability or health issue? I have a lot of companies that come to me and say, hey Bjoern, I know that this subject is very important, and this is highly intertwined with the well-being and the health of the workers, and also with the fact of being sick. This is highly connected with each other. What can we do here? And the nice thing is that these people, they actually welcome such foods, and they think, wow, I don't have an empty stomach. I can really stay put at work for a long time until the evening without being hungry again. And I can go with full energy back to work. What I didn't have earlier. First I had a performance low, the stomach digested, and correspondingly also in the office. The head is closed. The blood is in the stomach. The person has to work. And what usually happens when one eats meat, then one waits till the end of the day. What happens? One hasn't done anything in the meantime. One isn't efficient. That is exactly the interesting part, that companies notice that companies have more control over what they can do for their workers, that they can influence the well-being of the workers. It doesn't have to be vegan, it can just be healthy and fresh. I think it has to be consciously decided, right? In the end, it's the worker who decides. But the taste plays a very important role. I'm learning that, and I often experience this. I observed that once there were different lines to different foods, and the people were like, oh, vegan. Before the company started hiring people, we set up a few tables and we gave the people food to taste. And we perceived that many more people took the vegan offer. It's something different. Not the same thing like always. I'm going to try it out. That seems to taste good. I'm not restricting myself, and I'm also not taking a risk. The people have certain advantages, but when one goes beyond the advantages of just taste, it works wonder. One often says that a picture has more than 1,000 words. That's the same thing for me with food. When I put it in my mouth and I experience it on my own, that's something way more different than when I say, hey, vegan people have way better food. We have a goulash, we have a roulade. It doesn't have any meat in there. Exactly, it's so comprehensive, isn't it? But it makes total sense, because for a meat eater, what vegan is when one takes away the meat, the cheese, and all that. What is left over? Vegetables, salad, potatoes, sauces doesn't work either. Most of the time there's butter in there. That's very sad. It makes total sense, but that's also the nice part. I've been vegan 22 years now. I know all the patter, all the fears, all the questions. And I can take it totally easy. Hey, take it easy. Everything's okay. Have you ever experienced that your body had this strong crave for meat? The body doesn't have a need for meat because what we eat is controlled by our head. I once read about the subject of what we like to eat. And in the first 10 years, everything gets programmed. This has to do with our primary instinct that in that moment saved our lives. Because in the first 10 years of life, our parents, our relatives, had shown us in the rainforest what is edible to eat. Be careful with certain things. Not everything that is green is good. Be careful with red. We have, in other words, learned what is good from the taste, what is good from the appearance, what we can actually eat, to be able to survive later on. This is taught to us in the first 10 years of our life, and this is programmed. Long speech, short sense. A person that has been vegetarian for all his life doesn't have the munchies to eat meat because he doesn't know it. But when I prepare a meat alternative for him, then he'll think, oh wow, that smells good. The aromas are great. It's not like this person will have this craving for meat. But sometimes I notice myself that when I haven't eaten anything real rich in the past few weeks, that I need to do something a bit more rich. To have these aromas and to be able to taste them. To be able to lay back and just enjoy it. I know it because when I was a child, I used to live in a household where we ate really rich things. Like this, it functions. When I was young, I was always told, in Africa, they have a huge demographic problem. So many people are born there. But when one doesn't have any perspective, but of course we know this out of pure economic background knowledge, a country that has a certain wealth and a certain standard has less children because you have a totally different standard. In poor countries, more children are born because in this moment we have a totally different background. Children are there for pension, that they are there for the old ones. It's a totally different type of thinking. But the problem is that we know it. We're not doing anything against it. Why? Because of the industry. Because the industry doesn't profit from poor people in third world countries that need something to live. They don't earn money from that. And that's what it's all about. It's all about a few people getting richer and richer. That a few companies get richer and richer. It's not about the social aspect. And that's the nice thing about being vegan, that we have this consciousness about this. That we eat consciously, that we consume fresh products. We have an immense impact in politics, in the world. At the beginning, this is not even conscious. That's the nice thing. When one asks people why they eat meat, because it tastes. And then ask them, what does meat consumption mean for the environment, for the animals, for people? But the answer is, it just tastes good. You feel also good without it. The more people are vegan, the more the production is being stimulated to produce vegan products. At the moment, it's not stoppable. We have a development, we have a trend, although I do not like to say this word. It's not a trend for me. It's an attitude. Ask a person that wears a nerd pair of glasses where one wears these glasses. They don't know. Ask a woman who wears high heel pants why she wears high waist pants. She doesn't know. She doesn't have a response. It's nice. A year ago, you probably would have thought, it's not nice. You probably would never have worn it. Because it's worn a lot, it's a trend. Through a thought of trend, one usually comes across the vegan lifestyle. But there's a background. The latest in a half a year, when one has informed ourselves on this subject, one has a whole bunch of answers to all the questions why one is vegan. That's why I talk about the vegan lifestyle and not a trend, but from a hype. It has to do something with philosophy. No. It doesn't have to do anything with philosophy. It's an attitude. It has nothing to do with philosophy. It isn't philosophy. It's a life attitude. One says to one consciously that one doesn't want to nourish oneself like this again. To be able to attentively take care of one's world, the world for our grandchildren. That's a very conscious decision. It's not a philosophical concept. It's a very conscious decision to say that one doesn't want to be part of the system anymore. Because the system systematically destroys our world, our people, our animals. One also says that the vegan cuisine makes the spirit more conscious. I don't have a comparison here. That's also a health issue. I often hear it from people, like they say, I had so much power. I also have phases that I'm not so clear in my head. I mean, in the sense of being able to concentrate oneself much better, to have a clear head. If one goes without milk products, for example. I don't know. I also have phases where I can't concentrate myself. I think this has to do with the way one nourishes oneself. It also depends a lot from your well-being. If you have stress, are you happy? Also, happiness is a very important subject. People that are happy, they have a totally different performance. They have a clearer head because they don't burden themselves with problems. People that are unhappy can't be clear in their head because they deal with the problems. Of course, nutrition has an influence, but what matters in the end is the whole package. What do you do with stress? How do you deal with stress? I can't even describe it exactly. I'm somebody that can sleep very easily. I can differentiate it very easily. I don't have any problems with that. But it also has to do with the fact that I work a lot. And then one gets used to it. That the body builds up a system with which we can influence things. What do I do besides that? Garden work? That's also why I'm tanned. Garden work, cooking at home. Cooking for me is to also sit down, to empty one's head, to just turn off one's head. One can also meditate very well while doing dishes. Exactly, yeah, it functions. Do you meditate? No. I cook, that's like in a way meditation. I also drive a lot, I can also meditate well then. Just a place where I can let go of my thoughts. You have relocated your focus. You're doing a training. You're a vegetarian, a vegan coach. You got rid of the restaurants. Is that a relief? Or did it just happen like that? It was a development. It was a process. The restaurants at that time weren't interested. The student workshops, yes, that have a very young clientele. But besides that, whether it be companies, gastronomies, they made fun of us. In this sense, it was a process that on one side for me brought a huge relief, but also put in focus the right of animals. I'm in a restaurant where I have to be there standard-like. Am I able to work with 60, 120 people per day? When I do a training once, I cook minimum for 500 people. Minimum. It's really minimum. On one day, that means I pamper 500 people. I show the cookers how a vegan menu functions. How do I introduce them? What are there for options? I first do it orally. What happens, out of my point of view, is that they continue then cooking for 500 people. And this every day. So 2 days training, 500 people. And then I go to the next and train again 500 people. So on the fourth day, I already have 1,000 food menus that have to be produced. Not from me, but from cookers that were trained. When one sums that up, how many companies and how many students I have trained, where 1,000 vegan eaters come out every day, then one can sum up what an impact it has on meat consumption, meat production, but also consciousness. That's for me one point. The other fact is we go beyond the taste, beyond the quality. That means when the meat eater is thrilled, surprised, he thinks, wow. And when it's something bad, then he thinks, oh, I knew it all the time. Tofu is a good example. Nature tofu one has to prepare. The least people can do it. Each beginner prepares for her, his family and friends tofu. No, that won't work out. For me, it is very important that the gastronomy is offering vegan options. Does the offer need to be good? Yes, it must be good. If the people of the gastronomy only bring back quality, then the subject won't have an impact. That's the point. For me, it is very, very important to exactly in this moment make the difference. To show the people of the gastronomy what kind of ingredients there are, how they have to cook it. I don't show them how they have to cook it. I don't do that. Because people can cook, or else they wouldn't be cooks. I show them what kind of possibilities there are, what kind of raw materials there are, how they can convert them, what can one use. I give them a basic knowledge so that they can build upon it, so that they can establish their own style. That is something very elementary, very important for me. This quality. You see this in supermarkets. In the beginning, the shelves were filled with bullshit. And then you always heard, oh, the vegan subject is cool, but I tried something out and it was totally disgusting. I said, okay, then try something different. And then I recommended this person something different. And the person said, wow, I didn't know that it could become that yummy. I mean, to make a comparison, if you ate a bad schnitzel, that doesn't mean that you won't eat any more meat. When you ate a bad piece of meat, then you think, oh, the cook was bad. And you go into another restaurant and order another meal. With a vegan person is, as soon as you ate one bad meal, you hear, oh, I knew it all along. I knew vegan was bad. This is prejudice. These habits we get from the media, from the society, from relatives, etc. One searches exactly that to be able to say that. It's very difficult for the meat eater to think, whoa, is that good? One has to make a bad opinion about it. That's also comprehensive. It's a habit. The human being is a creature of habit. We have prepared our own snail home where it's all nice and cozy, we're doing well, and to leave our safe home to build a new snail home is very difficult. Also the contact within our own family. Really, I knew many people that didn't dare to out themselves. In the sense of, oh, I'm gonna get bad remarks, or I know my dad. He would never allow me. Or friends, one is made fun of. It's like when one goes on a class excursion, and of course you're gonna be made fun of if you have something different. When you become vegetarian, then you get these real mean comments. What's wrong with you? This prejudice, this fear that we have with people. This outing, it's like the same as when you would, with eating, changing the habit is really difficult. This fear of losing something, to go without something. That's why it's so important to help people where they are exactly. The first step is talking about products, about what about what kind of options there are, whether a vegan yogurt or what kinds of meat alternatives. I think it's also very funny how prominent cooks, for example, sausage, a very prominent example. They make fun of the vegan diet, but only in respect to the fact that they criticize meat alternatives. And then I ask myself, what do meat alternatives have to do with a vegan lifestyle? The meat alternatives make a very small fraction of what vegan food is. We have vegetables, fruits, salads, leguminous plants. We have this whole pot of fresh raw foods, which characterizes what a vegan is. That's why you don't have to pick out the most critical subjects like milk and meat alternatives and to criticize the whole vegan diet. The people surge to polarize. Nowadays, one talks very positively about vegan food. That certain cooks or food specialists start to claim the total opposite. And of course, the media world will be here. We need exactly this and this person that polarizes. Exactly these people that polarize or say the opposite. The fame. But that's exactly the problem, that people want to tickle their ego and want to get popular or famous, want to be something very special, so that they also profit. One saying that I would like to say for the end is that I don't want to end up one day with my grandchild on my lap saying, "Why is our world like that?" If we start continuing like this, although meat eaters only make up a small fraction of the people, meat production does a lot of harm. Thank you very much for this interview.